Vodka martini, shaken, not stir. Oh wait, wrong Spectre. Sorry, my bad. Also, I can't consume alcohol anymore. Hurts my bowels. Can I have a coffee instead? This is Spectre, released in 1994 for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System courtesy of Cybersoft and Synergistic Software. And this is a first-person tank game that is based on Spectre VR, an old Macintosh game from 1991 developed by Velocity Development. And there's also a PC version floating around as well, but we don't care about that one. The best way to describe Spectre is that it's essentially a 1990s take on the old Atari arcade game Battlezone, where you control a tank-like thing and must shoot other tank-like things in order to survive. Except here, everything moves a bit faster, you have shields to withstand some punishment, and you also have limited ammunition that you need to restock on. But additionally, Spectre is capture the flag in tank form, wherein the goal of each level is to capture 4 flags scattered throughout the map. Upon you'll proceed to the next level and lather, rinse, repeat. You have a radar on top that shows the positions of flags and bogeys, but there are other things to consider, such as green tiles that will repair some damage and refill some ammo, red tiles that are essentially landmines that will kill you on impact, and there are even warp tiles that will let you skip ahead a few levels, where you'll no doubt encounter new hazards to overcome, or just force you to quit ahead of time, whichever comes first. So on the title screen you have options for a 1-player game, a 2-player game, and there's even a help option that basically tells you how the game works and how to play. But if you press select on the title screen, you'll go to another screen that lets you choose from one of 3 preset tank configurations, or you could customize your tank stats, distributing 15 points among shield, speed, and ammo. Once that's done, you begin the game proper, which starts off easy enough to give yourself some time to learn the way things work in the game, but the difficulty does gradually pick up, and while you do earn extra lives every so often, they can be exhausted just as quickly because of the numbers games, tanks taking more hits to die as you move along, and also the occasional issue of your aim not quite being as good as it should be. Your controls are basic. You can move around, you could shoot, you could jump, and you could engage a hyper jump that warps you to another part of the playfield. Both jumps cost hyper energy to use, which regenerates fairly quickly. I typically use the regular jumps more than the hyper jumps because I like to see where I'm going, and also you have some control over your jumps in mid-air. Would have been nice if I could strafe as well, and gee whiz, you've got 2 buttons on that SNES gamepad that could serve that purpose just fine, but alas, you're driving a tank, and tanks don't strafe. Hence the moral of the story, build better tanks.
Level complete.
On the surface, Spectre is a fairly basic no-frills first-person shooting game. The gameplay is fairly solid and functional, but not particularly deep. The controls are responsive, but still feel slightly off at times. You've got a couple droning audio tracks that are quite bland and forgettable, and the sound effects are somewhat weak-sounding, although the brief voice clips are quite nice. Spectre sports a 2-player split-screen mode that lets you play a couple play modes with a second player, a co-op capture the flag, or a competitive mode, that sort of thing. And those make Spectre a bit more interesting because there isn't much to say about the single player, it's just there. Now visually, Spectre isn't much to look at. You've got a black void with a gradient horizon, a checkerboard floor, some solid shapes, and abstract objects that are fairly basic in shape and appearance. Not the prettiest looking game, and other than changing colors here and there, this is pretty much all you're getting visually, so there's not much in terms of visual variety. But what's notable about Spectre is that in terms of frame rate and animation, or depth perception, scaling, things of that nature, it's actually pretty smooth. There's no slowdown, there's no stutter, the scaling is not quite perfect, but it's actually not too bad either. And what's most impressive about Spectre is that this is being done without any special chips or hardware or anything of the sort. No Super FX or anything like that. It's just the stock hardware making this all run smoothly. Even if it doesn't look all that great from a visual standpoint, the fact that it moves slick is quite the achievement. Even Star Fox struggled a bit in that regard. Ultimately though, Spectre is a mixed bag of sorts, in that the single player experience is somewhat underwhelming and tedious, which means its true value lies in the 2-player competitive game. Still, on a technical level, it's a fairly solid showing for a type of game that generally doesn't fare well on SNES, and without the use of special hardware which earns the game some extra credit. I wouldn't call Spectre a hidden gem or anything of the sort, but if you fancy a simple tank game of the Battlezone variety without any frills, then Spectre is a game worth checking out with expectations firmly in check.